Okay, so we're going to dive into Lexar's collars, how he should wear them, and how we're going to use them to make sure that he progresses really well with training. So we start with the remote collar. So this is the remote collar, it's included in your package. So we're going to turn the collar on, and you'll notice on the collar we have a little red dot right here. That is the magnet. The key to the magnet is on the remote itself. So if we look at the remote for a second, where you see the antenna, turn it to the side, somewhere right here is the matching red dot. So we're going to touch the two together, and that's going to turn on Lexar's remote collar. Touch, green light, you'll see that it's turned on, charged, ready to go. We'll do that again, so I'm going to shut it off, doing it the exact same way. So we're going to turn it off, red light, turn it on, green light, it's on, good to go. So I'm going to set that to the side. Now the remote, we are going to push and hold the button in the back that has the L on it. We're going to push and hold it until the screen lights up. You'll see, hopefully you'll see on the screen that it says number 35 with an M and a 1D at the top. So that's what it'll look like every time you turn it on. That's his setting. So he is at a correction level of 35, which is a little bit on the higher end, but considering how he's always kind of on edge sometimes, it makes sense because the adrenaline's running, so he can't feel a correction like normal. This level can absolutely change as he goes home. It can either need to be more or less with his environment. If he's always kind of amped up with the distractions that we have here, he needs to have it a little bit higher because, again, he's constantly thinking, his adrenaline's running, so we match that with having a little bit higher of a correction level, so we don't have to do more than necessary. If he was at level 25, you would probably have to press this twice as much, and again, this level can change when he goes home, and I'll show you how to do that. If level 35 is too much, so I'll show you on my hand, it will probably make my thumb twitch. There, so it made my thumb twitch. If level 35 is too much, and oh, I'm pressing the black S button for level 35, you can adjust the level. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. You would push down and hold the dial right here, and then you could turn it to adjust the level where you think it is appropriate. If 35 is too high, I would try 25. And then if 35 isn't enough, you try 45. So we're going to turn it back to 35. I'm going to push down and hold it. And hopefully you can see that the 1D is solid, no longer flashing, so it is set back at 35. So for Lexar, like I showed you with my hand, if he does something incorrect or inappropriate, we say no and we push the black S button. No, push the button, repeat the command. So he's on place. He does anything other than lay calmly on his place bed, no, correction, place command. If you call him to come to you, no, correction, come. That's if he does not listen. If he listens on the first try, great. If he tries to do any funny business where he jumps up at us, immediately shut that down, no, correction, give the command sit down, whatever it needs to be in order to get him back in a steady mindset. When he gets overly aroused, he makes dumb choices like trying to jump up at our face. We need to shut that down immediately and make sure that he understands that we're in control of the situation. So that is the black S button. We have the red S button, which is going to boost him. It's going to add 35. I've customized that, set it to where it needs to be. Rowdy, my personal dog's just walking around behind me, so if you can see him, hopefully you can ignore him. So the red button right here is the boost, so it'll go from 35 to 70. That is for emergencies only. I have not needed that for Lexar yet, but let's say you're practicing with him off leash at your house and all of a sudden the UPS driver shows up and he tries to charge them and doesn't come back when you call him on the first try. You've corrected him with the 35, didn't work. That's when you go to the 70. That's gonna shock his system, and when I mean shock, I mean like, oh my gosh, surprise him, because his adrenaline's running. 35 he can ignore. He's probably not going to be able to ignore 70 because it's going to be such an increase in level. It's going to match his adrenaline. So emergencies only is the red button. Over here we have vibrate. I do not use vibrate really. Sometimes it can be too much or really not enough. It's like a bug buzzing around, so you don't really use vibrate a whole lot, but it's there in case you accidentally push it. No big deal, it's just vibrate. On the back of the remote, we have the on-off button that has an L. If you just tap it, he turns into a little flashlight. So you can see him at night running around, tap it again, shuts the flashlight off. When you put this on Lexar, make sure the light is facing towards his face. And then I like to put it in the little pocket right here. It has to be snug, allowing only 2 fingers at most in between the collar and Lexar, right? So you can put it right here or right here, either side. And you want to make sure that's nice and snug, because if it's loose and rubs around, he might not feel the correction and it can cause irritation, and we don't want to make his neck sore or anything. This is waterproof, so he can go swimming, he can get wet, no big deal. This will survive water, it's completely waterproof. But if he does get wet, you want to take the collar off, let his neck and skin dry thoroughly before you put the collar back on. We don't want moisture building in underneath there, and then an infection can happen and he can get a hot spot, so we don't want that. Okay, they're both rechargeable. So the charging port for the collar is underneath where the little prongs are. And then for the remote, this is also waterproof. It is on the back side right here. You want to make sure that's shut. That way if it does fall into water, the water's not going to seep in and ruin the electronics of the collar. You're going to see this little button M/C right here. You do not have to worry about changing that. He needs to be on just momentary, which means if I push and hold this button, it's only going to stimulate for that 1 second. It's not going to continuously stimulate. If you see a letter C on the screen, you want to push and hold that little mini button back there until you see just the letter M. I'm going to shut this off. So I'm going to push and hold the big L button, and oh, I didn't push it long enough. Push and hold until the screen is gray and it's off, and then you can tap this to turn the remote collar off. So when you're putting on his collars, the remote collar goes on first physically, but it goes down a little bit lower because you're going to also have the prong collar and the slip collar on him. And I know it seems like a lot of collars right now, but each one serves a purpose. So the prong collar, when he's wearing the prong collar, this is to correct him while he's wearing a leash. When you're walking him, when you're practicing obedience in the house. This slip collar is to help guide him into new experiences. So, for example, getting in and out of the car might not be his favorite, right? So instead of correcting him on the prong collar, no, we guide him in to the car using the slip leash. So this is when you need constant pressure. This is when you need just a quick correction. So I would have the leash attached to the prong collar, to the D-ring of the prong collar. This just hanging loosely, and then you have the remote collar. So he's gonna wear 3 collars for a while, and this is completely normal. My personal dog had to wear 3 collars for a while because of his reactivity. This is a diffuser, this is to correct, and then this is to stay consistent so you can have the upper hand with Lexar. And of course, we wanna balance all of this out by rewarding the good behavior. We wanna tell him he's doing a good job by giving him plenty of treats, especially when he's in those tense situations. Good place, good heel, good down. Whatever he's in, we reward with treats, and I want you to continue to do that throughout his training. As he gets better, then we can kind of cut back on everything. As he acts better, we don't need to correct as much. As he acts better, we reward, but then you can start to fade those out because he will have a reward history for doing the right thing. So this is how he's gonna look with all of his fancy new collars. So we have his remote collar box. We have the charger. You can charge both the collar and the remote at the same time. And then over here, the little tool right here in this bag, that's to tighten the prongs on the collar. If you plan on taking him swimming, or you think he's going to get wet because it's hot and he likes to play in the water, make sure to tighten these just in case. They should be pretty snug, but just in case, I would just take this little tool, make sure it's tight. That way water again doesn't seep in and ruin the electronics. You can ignore these. He doesn't have long hair, so he doesn't need those extensions. And then we have the instructions if you want to go over all the buttons in greater detail, but we covered everything you're going to need in his training with the remote collar. Okay, So with settle, the videos I sent you earlier in his training, I want you to do that 3 to 4 times a week. So now he's gotten to the point where if you do it consistently 3 to 4 times a week, he will settle down in less than 10 minutes. Now, of course, that depends on how much exercise he's had and how amped up he is in that moment, but I would say anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes and he is fully relaxed. We've shut down that brain, we've shut off his anxious brain, and he's able to fully calm down. It's nice for him. It keeps him level-headed so he's not always in this anxious state. So settle 3 to 4 times a week, stay consistent with your training, and make sure to practice with someone coming over, maybe in the beginning when you take him home once a week, and then taper off to once a month or whenever you have guests over. When in doubt, maybe put Lulu up to just focus on Lexar. That's what I would suggest in the beginning. That way you can really get good. So I would put Lulu away and have you practice with just Lexar. So he's got it really good. And then when you start working with them both together, one person focuses solely on Lexar and the other person focuses solely on Lulu, and then you switch those roles so they learn to respect each person. So now we're going to show you Lexar's commands.
hold it. No, I guess it does.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
How are you doing? Good, how are you? Good.
Oh.
And I tried like realigning. Good boy, good deal. Yeah. Good boy, good boy. Sit. Sit. Good boy. Down. Good boy. Down. Down. Good boy. Good boy. Down. Down. Good job. Down. Good boy. You dropped one. Can't eat this one. Good. Down. Down. Good. Good, we got it? Gosh. Good down. Free? Good boy. Good job. So when we work on the muzzle with him, you want to put the treat on the bottom opening. So you can kind of tell the bottom because it's a little bit wider. So right under there, that's where you want to put the treat. It's the easiest way for Lexar to eat the hot dog or whatever treat you're using. If he's in a sit or a down, sometimes it's easier. So you always give him a couple of treats before you put the muzzle on for the session. And then once his face is in, you just go up and around his ears and you clasp it together. You might have a belt buckle style or the clasp style like this. Either way works. And then whenever you give him a treat, again, I always go underneath. It's a little bit easier for him. So he's thinking settle is next. But that's how settle should look, except I would be on the other side, and you only use a slip collar with settle, but we kind of talked about that in earlier videos. You can get up. You're free. Free. Sit. So to show you the treat, hopefully you can see it goes underneath like this. That way he can easily eat the treats from your hands. Good boy. Free. Place. Place. Good job. Just gonna walk around at first, and then we'll have a seat. Place. I'm gonna be away from him now. You just gonna walk around, and then we'll have you guys sit. Place. You guys go ahead and have a seat. I'm gonna leave the room. Place. Place. See how it goes without me here.
Fall down and pass out.
That was good. I wanted to see what he would do a bit faster.
Don't let me pat him, I know he will.
Huh?
Don't let me pat him, I know he will.
You can. Look, there's a hand right there. Yeah, lean up. There you go. Boy, this good boy.
Yeah, sure.
You're doing so great. Very nice. Wait. Place. Place. Good. Here. Here. Good.
So much weight up. It's stinky.
Sit. Alright, break. Place. Place. Thank you.
Yep.